Alexa Bliss was initially kidnapped by The Fiend on an episode of WWE SmackDown back in the summer of 2020. For almost a year, the former women's champion has been under his thumb, and has slowly turned into a completely new character on WWE television. After The Fiend was defeated back at TLC in December, it was Bliss who was left with the pieces of the jigsaw. She slowly put the pieces back together and became even more powerful in the process. The fact that Alexa Bliss was given this time alone without the darkness, as she called it, allowed her to see that even though she had been trapped with The Fiend for a long time, she didn't actually need him. Last night on Raw, Bliss made it clear that this was the motivation behind her actions on Sunday night at WrestleMania. Bliss is more powerful than The Fiend at this point. She introduced her alter ego, Lilly, last night on Raw. It could be an interesting few months for the stars who were once seen as a duo. But since Alexa Bliss has a new friend, could Bray Wyatt find a replacement for the former women's champion? At present, there are many women on the roster who could align themselves with Bray Wyatt ahead of a feud with Alexa Bliss. Number 5. Could Billie Kay offer her services to Bray Wyatt on WWE Raw? Billie Kay has been struggling to find her place in WWE over the past few months since she split from her best friend, Peyton Royce. The Australian star has been trying to find a new partner for herself over on SmackDown. She recently had an opportunity to tag alongside with Carmella at WrestleMania. The two women came up short at WrestleMania, and it's believed that this could be the end of their short-lived alliance on WWE television. Perhaps Billie Kay could try her luck over on Raw, which will put her in the sights of The Fiend. Much like Alexa Bliss, Kay would be vulnerable to his advances. Given that she is desperate to form an alliance at present, Kay could be recruited by Bray Wyatt as a replacement for Bliss. Number 4. Paige could return in a non-wrestling role to align herself with Bray Wyatt on WWE Raw. Whilst it's a long shot, Paige could return to WWE if there was a role where the former Divas champion wasn't forced to wrestle. The British star has remained optimistic about her future over the past few years, and has been part of several on-screen roles where she wasn't forced to step back into the ring. Paige always seemed like the perfect option to cast as Sister Abigail. She was even rumored to portray Abigail years ago. Alexa Bliss has rarely wrestled as part of her storyline with The Fiend, and if Paige was needed to wrestle Bliss, then there would always be an option of a cinematic match given the circumstances. Paige is also only 28 years old and could return to full-fledged in-ring competition in the long run. This could be Paige's chance to push her career forward and help The Fiend to get even with Alexa Bliss, who cost him the biggest win of his career at WWE WrestleMania 37. Number 3. Reckoning could find herself being targeted by The Fiend on WWE Raw. WWE has not been able to find a good place for Mia Yim to fit in since she was promoted from NXT last year. And now that Retribution has split, the star could be forgotten. As Reckoning in Retribution, Yim showed that she had the ability to adapt to a different and dark character. She could find a way to mold into a role that will allow her to help Bray Wyatt in the long run. Mace and T-Bar recently shifted their focus to dismantle Drew McIntyre. Mustafa Ali seems to have forgotten all about his association with Retribution over the past few weeks. Meanwhile, Slapjack's WWE future is yet to be determined. This could be Yim's chance to step back into the spotlight and show that she deserves the same opportunities as the other women on the main roster. The former NXT superstar is also a fantastic wrestler and would definitely be able to go toe-to-toe with Alexa Bliss in the ring when needed. Number 2. Liv Morgan could be a good choice for The Fiend to recruit over on WWE Raw. Liv Morgan has often been rumored to play a character that could stand by The Fiend's side on WWE television. When it comes to fantasy booking, Morgan is frequently associated with Sister Abigail by many fans. Over the past few years, Morgan has cosplayed as several different characters and shown that she has the ability to be as dark as Alexa Bliss, given the opportunity to do the same. At WrestleMania, Liv Morgan cosplayed as Harley Quinn, someone that Alexa Bliss was known to transform into several times in her early main event career before she was changed by The Darkness. This could have been completely unrelated, or it might be a calling card for The Fiend to go after Morgan next. While Morgan is currently on WWE SmackDown, it could be argued that much like King Corbin in recent weeks, she could switch over to Raw if needed since there doesn't seem to be a rule against moving brands anymore. Number 1. WWE superstar Nikki Cross could join The Fiend and try to get her best friend back. Nikki Cross has been conspicuously missing from WWE Monday Night Raw for several months. She was last seen trying to help Alexa Bliss overcome The Fiend. Cross would be the obvious choice if The Fiend was looking to recruit a new sidekick since the former women's tag team champion wanted to do everything she could to bring her best friend back from the dark side. Bliss humiliated Cross several times on WWE television throughout the past year. The latter has a lot that she needs to get revenge for, so a change of character wouldn't be a bad thing for the former Sanity member. During a huge chunk of her time in NXT, she played an unhinged character on television. Cross could connect to The Fiend if she brought back her chaotic persona. This brand of crazy would definitely come in handy if she was locked in the Firefly Funhouse with Bray Wyatt in the near future. Sound off in the comments below. Boom. Charlotte Flair shuts down fans body shaming her following WWE Raw return. Charlotte Flair is one of the most badass wrestlers in the world. The Queen has lived up to her nickname frequently, but most of those performances that gave her the name came inside the ring. Outside the ring, Flair is nothing less of a badass. Flair is one of the most physically dominant superstars in the women's division. She branded herself genetically superior to the rest of the division and has lived up to that moniker. Despite being physically impressive, the Queen has to respond to people body shaming her online. A Twitter user commented on Flair's appearance in Monday Night Raw and ridiculed her outfit. The Queen responded with a royal comeback, saying, "Lord help me if I ever listen to a man's opinion on how I should look." Despite the bold comeback which shut down the rude Twitter user, Flair should not have faced such criticism. The internet is a cruel place, and the likes of Charlotte Flair are undeserving of such treatment. Given her talents, she should clearly focus on her career instead of responding to haters online. After weeks away from the ring and missing WrestleMania for the first time in her career, Charlotte Flair returned to Monday Night Raw. The Queen returned to the ring in December 2020, but after a brief run as Women's Tag Team Champion, she returned to the sidelines. Flair came down with COVID-19, which forced her to miss out on WrestleMania 37, although the release of her fiancé Andrade might have had a role to play in her missing out. However, she is back, and she's ready to take her place at the top of WWE. She cut a great heel promo about how missing out on WrestleMania was a big deal for her. She called herself a franchise player and a genuine superstar, and what she does in the ring is sacred. The issues with Asuka, her father, Lacey Evans, and the virus are over and she's ready to reclaim the spot Rhea Ripley stole from her. She named every female superstar who appeared at WrestleMania and claimed none of them compare to her. Flair will take her opportunities, contrary to what people think, which is that she steals opportunities. She says everyone will bow down to the 13-time women's champion.
Oh, let me up with a bright smile on now. Put me in the dark, so won't get lost now. To the moonlight, I